Hello Yarn Gang, Nikki from Bunny Crafts Oxford here, and welcome to a new Come Dyer With Me episode, or at least an organised chaos version of it. If you are a returning viewer, then welcome back, and if you are a new viewer, then I'm very glad that you've joined me. I've got what I think is a really fun video for us today. And I'm going to be playing with a sort of gradient, but not the gradient is not the only thing that's going to be fun. We're going to be doing it using a yarn that has silver stellina sparkle in it, so you can see the lovely silver strands that go through the yarn. So when we dye it, we should not only just get a nice gradient or color transition really for what I have planned, but we should also have this gorgeous sparkle. So the yarn is a 75% merino, 15% nylon and 10% silver stellina. I have a theory, which is probably right if I was actually to look it up, but because there is a little bit less nylon in the yarn, it's that little bit softer and squishier. It is a 4-ply base, I don't know, sock base, I don't know if I said that, but I honestly can't describe to you just how lovely and soft this yarn is. So what are we doing today? I have taken a skein of yarn, which is 100 grams, and I have divided it and pre-soaked it as well, which is why it's heavy, in 4 20-gram skeins, and they're all still actually connected to each other. And what I've done is, using my reusable nylon zip ties, which you can get from Amazon, and I will try and remember to link it below in the show notes, I have put them together based on the sequence. So each one of these I have numbered. I don't know if you're going to be able to see. So we have number 1, we have number 2. I think this has gone round the wrong way. This should be number, this is number 3. You can't see it very easily because it's a darker zip tie, because I've used it for other dyeing, and nylon can be dyed using acid dyes or food dye, as we know. And then we have number 4. So I have, let's put this here so I actually know which one's which. So I have this yarn. It was pre-soaked in just regular tap water, no acid added to it at all, and I soaked it for about an hour. So I put it first thing this morning. So we have the yarn. We then have 4 jars. I'm going to try and hide, I mean, everyone knows what brand this jar belongs to. We have 4 jars, and we're going to put the yarn in the jars with some dye in the order that I've got them, with different colors, and hopefully we're going to get a color transition. So I'm not going to do a color gradient where it goes from light to dark or dark to light. I'm going to transition from one color to the next, and the colors that I've picked I've already turned into solution, so that we don't have to faff around with the dry powder and the respirator mask and me sounding like Bane. So I have picked I've basically picked colors based on stock that I already actually had. So this is the fluorescent yellow that we used in the tie-dye disaster video that we had. This is a pink orchid from Dyer, and this is actually a mix of 2 colors. So I had 50 milliliters of Walton's blue food colouring left, again from the disaster tie-dye video, and what I did is I filled the bottle back up to 200 milliliters, and I've added a half of a, what is this, So a quarter of a teaspoon, which I think is about 1.5 grams last time I measured it, but I could be wrong, of navy blue, jacquard navy blue, to get a sort of bright, not too bright, but still quite a bright blue that has a little bit of extra tone in it. And then what I did is, on a bit of kitchen roll, I did a bit of a swatch to see what the colours look like. So we've got the fluorescent yellow at the top. We've got a mix of the yellow and the pink, which creates this nice little sort of orange colour. And then we've got the pink, the blue that I've mixed, and a mix of the pink and the blue together. What I want to do is, I don't want to have any yellow in this. I want to have it go from the orange to the pink to the purple and then to the blue. Although I was first debating on whether to just have it from the blue to the purple, because the purple is technically darker, and I'm not really too precious about it going from light to dark or have it sort of rainbow coloured. I just want the yarn to transition into these colours. So I do think I am actually going to go orange, pink, blue, purple. Now, we're going to have to mix the orange and the purple together, which is what we're going to do next. And the way I'm going to do it is very, very precisely, not at all. I've got a little measuring jug here. I'm going to put the silk yarn away so I don't get any colour on it. I've prepared some tissue so I can actually test the mix as I go along, and I've got some spoons. So I'm going to start by actually measuring equal amount of the fluorescent yellow and the pink, and then depending on the tone we'll just keep adding a little bit more of one or the other until we get it to what it looks like. So I'm going to start with a tablespoon of fluorescent yellow, and this is a 1% stock solution. I'm going to put my gloves on because otherwise I'm going to end up with mad coloured hands, and because this is acid dye I should actually protect myself and protect my skin. Okay, so we have tablespoon of the yellow, and now we're just going to put a tablespoon of pink. I have a feeling I'm going to end up with more yellow in the mix than pink, just to get the tone that we want. Just going to give it a little bit stir, and then we're just going to take our tissue and just drop to see the colour that we get. And oh my god, if I get this first time, I'm gonna be so pleased. Right, so we get this sort of orange colour. What I think is, I want it just a little bit more pigmented, so I want this tone, I just want it to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to add another tablespoon of each colour. And I have to remember, we're only dyeing 20 grams of yarn with each colour, so we don't need that much dye to get quite a saturated yarn. So I'm going to do that. Do another stir. Get our tissue, just do a quick drip test, and yeah, so it's the same tone. You can see from here it's pretty much the same, there's just a little bit more pigment in there. So we have our orange. I'm going to get another beaker so that we can mix the purple. I'm just going to wash off any colour from our measuring spoons. Give them a little try. So I'm going to start with the same ratio. I have a feeling the blue might be a little bit too much, but maybe not. I honestly don't know. I'm going to be very fair. So again, I'm going to put 2 of the blue and 2 of the pink. And to be fair, I love every and all shades of purple. It's my absolute favourite colour. So I wouldn't be mad regardless of the shade of purple that we get, but I don't want it to be too overwhelming and be too dark in comparison to the rest of what we're trying to do. So let's give it a bit of a stir. I have a feeling I'm going to need to put some more pink in here. Remember if I put 1 or 2 in there? But let's see what we've done. Yeah, we need a lot more pink in here. That is literally just blue. So I'm going to whack in 2 more tablespoons of pink. I think this is one of the most fun parts of yarn dyeing, is just sort of playing with the colours and mixing your own colours. I keep linking to Rebecca from Chemnitz in my videos, but that's because she is literally the queen of this, and I love her and I have so much respect for her and for what she does. She does this colour triangle exercise where she uses 3 primary colours, the yellow, the blue and the red, or yellow, magenta and teal, I think it is, and she mixes them in this 15 colour triangle to show you, depending on the ratio of each colour, what you can get. Now, being able to do this sort of triangle, or having someone like her do it for you, gives you a really good idea of the range of colours that you can mix using just the 3 primary colours. And this is why this is so much fun. So before I dab this to see what we've got, I just want to show really quickly. Can you see we've got breaking? So in the middle we've got the purpley sort of pink, and then we get a blue halo outside. This happens with purple colours all the time, and it's essentially has to do with the way that the red versus the blue molecules react with each other, and one's just spreads a little bit more than the other, but I think it has to do with acid as well. Anyway, this is a bit more purple. Can you see? My light again isn't brilliant because it is the dreariest, greyest day. And it's so awful outside. It's been raining for the last 2 days, and I gave up waiting for a nice day to film this video. I'm just filming it, and also I've got 6 days off, and during which I'm going to film lots of videos. I'm going to put another spoonful of pink. I'm going to put another 2. I want it more violet-y pink than bluey pink. I should have only put like a teaspoon or something of the blue. You heard me say that the blue is going to dominate, and yet I still whacked a full 2 teaspoons in here, tablespoons even. Okay, let's see what we have. Yeah, this is more sort of violet, which is what I want. The camera's not great in showing it. Done. Yeah, there we go. If I get it a little bit closer, will it focus? Of course it won't focus. Nah. Okay. Well, we'll see it in the yarn, hopefully. Right. So I'm just gonna tidy up really quickly so I don't have any stray. If you're wondering what the white thing on the counter is that I have, it is literally just a shower curtain. It helps me protect my kitchen counters, and it makes it a lot easier to tidy up as well when I do this. Okay, so what we're going to do next, hopefully not spill any dye everywhere, is put the yarn in the jars. And I am going to first fill the jars with a little bit of warm water. Excuse me running the sink and making noise. Come on, warm water. I'm going about half, and I'm just going to put the jars next to each other to roughly measure so that we have the same amount of water. I could have just used measuring cups, but I'm a little bit lazy and they're literally across the room from me, so I can't bother to go all the way to the other side of the room. There we go. Right, so we have our jars of water, and keep dropping and spilling water everywhere. I'll put my other glove back on. So we're going to take our yarn. I'd had it just sort of twisted so that it's easier to handle, but we are going to, you see what I'm doing, sort of, let's put the jars in a rough line. So we're going to first take number 1, and I push this through here. If I remember correctly, I already have a little bit of pink on there, so it must have been pink on the counter, but that's fine, we don't mind, we don't care. Well, we care a little bit. Okay, so this is our little skein. You can see there is a strand that's going off, connecting it to number 2. That sounds rude. Sorry, I'm really childish. And we're going to put our skein in here. I am so not looking forward to, once this is dry, actually trying to turn it back into full skein. So we've got the full skein in there. It's covered in water. It's a little bit hard to see. I should have probably peeled off the, there we go. Oh, this is just, ooh. Okay, I think knocking the camera over is going to be my calling card. So here we go. Wonderful. So we're going to put some of this in here. I could have probably had less, just sort of single strands connecting with the skeins, but to be honest, my Swift is kind of just really cheap and rackety. So what I did to divide the skein like this is I took it from the skein that was already in, turned it into a yarn ball, put it on the scales, and wound it back up on the Swift. Looking at the scales, making sure that, you know, each one of these was 20 grams. So we have 1, which is going to be our orange, 2, which is going to be our pink, 3, which is going to be our blue, and 4, which is going to be our purple. And I am literally going to just, so this is hopefully quite useful, I'm literally just going to dump the whole amount of dye that I have in here. So I have a total of 4 tablespoons of dye in here, which means I will then put 4 tablespoons of the pink and 4 tablespoons of the blue, and hopefully I have enough of the pink. Fingers crossed. So we're just gonna whack it straight in here and just move it around by lifting the skein up and down and just using a bit of a spoon to stir things around. And it's actually quite a nice pinky orange. I don't know if you can see. And you can see the water's almost cleared up. So I don't actually know what the pH of my water is. I don't know whether I have slightly acidic water or not. If it is a slightly acidic water, then dye can start taking up already. I'm just mixing around. I think what's happened as well is the pink is already bound, or is binding, and the yellow is left behind. And because it is a fluorescent yellow, it's going to take a little longer, and we're not getting the tone that I want. In fact, we have a lot of yellow at the bottom, so this is where you end up just being your own master. I am going to lift this up and add another, I'm just going to put it in here, and add another tablespoon of pink. Pardon me for all the clanking. And then as I add it, I'm going to add it with the yellow first, and hopefully that will help get a bit more pink into the rest of the yarn. Yeah, now we're talking. I'm almost dip dyeing this. I'm starting to think that yes, my water is quite acidic. Okay, so we will get what we get. Even if it's not quite tonal, it's got a bit of variation in tone, it's still actually going to be the same theme. So what we're doing next we're doing pink, and because it's just one color, I'm not too worried. What I might do actually, maybe I should have done the color first and then added the yarn into it, but we'll see. I'm going to rinse this out. And then I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to add a 5th one because we added a 5th one to the previous one. So we will try and be as accurate as we can be. I'm just going to lift this out as I add the colour, and then just put it back in. And this pink is got sort of fuchsia tinge to it, so it goes towards purple. So I forgot to take the label off of this jar. Let's do that so we can see better. There we go. Oh, isn't that colour beautiful? Oh, look at that. Oh, I love this. I love it. I'm going to take a bit more of this orange and just plop it in here. And yeah, I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir at the bottom. And I'm just going to put a little bit more colour in here just to rinse out the little bit of pink. I'm going to try and count when I edit this video. I'm going to try and count how many clangs and camera shakes and crinkles and running water I have, and just put a little counter on the corner or something. Cool. So we have the pink. Let's close this. I'm quite glad that I used it up. I'm very tempted to just maybe divvy this up between these two, but we'll see. Of course I knocked it over and spilled it everywhere. His eyes are clots. Okay, so we've rinsed this out. Number 3 is going to be our blue. Let's take off the Dyer. This video is not sponsored by Dyer, by the way. I just happen to have a lot of Dyer jars left over because they're just the right size, like they're half a litre jar, and quite like that. So I'm gonna dip this in here. And you can see it's blue. Anyway, blue. No more dilly-dallying. Get the blue on. Do we count the measuring spoon clanking as part of all the general clanking I'm going to count? I don't know. So we have 1, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. Let's do it here, where you can see what I'm doing. 1, 2, and a bit. 3. The blue is very pigmented, as we discovered. Do we maybe stick with 3 and then see how we feel? I might just stick with 3 and then maybe add a 4th and a 5th one if I don't get quite the tone that I want, you know. Okay, so I'm just gonna lift this up. It's dripping everywhere. I'm going to add the blue and then we're going to add this back in. That's quite a nice pastel blue actually. It goes quite well with the sort of pink. Okay. Well, this is turning out to be a little bit more pastel than I wanted it to. I'm actually really pleased. I had a feeling that it might be a little bit more pastel because I tend to mix, when I do my solutions, I tend to mix them quite pastel. I mean, I like really bright colours, but I also I love pastel colours. So, yeah, I think I quite like this, you know. Let me bring this a little bit more forward. I'm so annoyed that I can't get the light to not just be glaring onto the counter. But let's see if I can bring this a little bit more forward and you can see. Yeah, I quite like this. So I think I'm going to stick with the blue in the quantities that we have it. I'm just going to add a little bit more water to rinse the jug thing. Okay, and I'm just going to put this a little bit back. Bring this one forward. And we're going to count 3 of the purple as well, so that we can hopefully get more pastel colour too. 2, 3. And then I'm going to lift this up like I did with the rest of them. And add the purple. Put it back in, move it around, and again, why am I so forgetful today? Oh, I love this. Hold on. Let's get it all in. I absolutely love this, but I want more of this in there. I am going to add another 2 spoonfuls. Oh my god, I nearly spilled that in. This is like a gorgeous lavender almost. Put this in here. Yes. Oh, with the sparkle as well. It's gonna be so pretty. Yeah. It is so pretty. Right. Okay, I'm just gonna rinse the beaker. The other thing as well is, so you see, I have managed to remember to sort of dip the ends in both sides. Just doing that. Give it a bit of a stir. Oh, you can see the pinks have struck as well, and then the blues haven't. So this is actually going to change. This is looking really, really pink right now. But the blues that remain in the water will then strike a little bit slower, and we're going to get a more purpley colour. The issue we might have is that it will be a little bit patchy, so it's not going to be too tonal, but we'll see. I don't mind. So let me see if I can show you. We have these lovely colour transitions. So when you knit this up, you're going to start with one of each end, and then your project will transition from one to the next and this could be really fun. I guess I guess a scarf or a shawl or something, you know. It will be really nice. It can be incorporated into a project where you first have the one colour and then you added a little bit of white and you have the second colour and then a bit more white, so you turn it again into a 2-skein project. But we will see. Let me dab up all of this. So I'm going to leave these in here for about 10 minutes. I'm going to go make myself a coffee because it's time for coffee number 2 of the day, and then we are going to mix in some citric acid solution. So it's a litre of citric acid with it's either 2 or 4 tablespoons of citric acid. I think it might be 4 because I do it quite acidic. So we're going to drop that in there. We're going to give it a really good stir, and we're going to add it to a pot, which we're going to then fill up to about here on the jars, and then leave it to do its thing. I'll try and get this. I want this to be a bit more blue. Right, I will see you shortly. Okay, so these have had about 10 minutes in the jars just as they are. We are now going to add some acid. So this is a mix, as I said, I put, a cup, so 250 milliliters, and one of these citric acid, and it's really quite acidic. So I'm just going to put one of these in here, and I will move the yarn up and down just to mix it. I don't think I'll need more than one of these. Oh god, I'm spilling water absolutely everywhere, which is very like me. It's so fun. Let me show you. So when I lift this out, you see mostly just blue left to absorb. So a lot of those pinks have struck, which is fun. So we've got these here. I'm just going to move this to the side and again wipe down all of this spillage. This is why it's really nice having something like a shower curtain to use, or like one of those, are they called linoleum, like the tablecloths that you can just wipe clean because they don't absorb. So I already have, let's just get something warm, a pot with a little bit of water in the bottom, and I'll turn the camera around in a minute. And I have this, it's one of the really big pasta inserts, which is pretty much the size of the whole pot. So we're going to take this and we're going to take our jars and put them in here, and hopefully I've calculated we should have space for all of them. Oh, we don't have space for all of them. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Do we have space in the whole pot? Because I can't just put them in the pot directly. It's just easier to lift them in and out. I don't know why they would fit in here. So we have the pot. We have, yeah, those will fit. I mean, barely, but they will fit. Ta-da! Let's just get all of this in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top it up with a bit more water. I don't know how well you can see, I mean as well as you can expect. Let's see if I can just do that. So I'm just going to top of the pot with the water just on the brim of the jars to make sure they're not floating or anything. And I'm just going to put it back down and transfer. Oh, this is really heavy. Transfer this onto the hob. And then we'll swing around. Whee! So here is my hob. Oh, this is much nicer light over here. Which is kind of hopeful for the next video that I'm going to shoot right after this one. Because as I said, I have today off, and so I'm going to do a few of the Come Dye With Me videos in one go. So you may be seeing this colours return. So I've got the lid, I'm going to cover this. I've got the hob down to 6. I think I'm just going to put it down to 5 because 6 can be a bit of a more of a rolling simmer. 5 is a bit more gentle. And then the lid's reflecting the hob thing. Ignore this and mine and doing everything. So we're going to leave this. Oh, this is hot. For about 20 minutes once it gets to a simmer, and then I will just check to see how the colour is doing. I think 20 minutes should be enough, because as you see, it was already binding to the yarn. And then we're actually going to leave it to cool in the pots. I'm probably going to leave it overnight unless I need this pot again, in which case I might take the jars out and leave them to cool on their own. It really depends on what the rest of the plan of my day is. But yeah, so I will see you once this is cool, so we can check the colour of the water and pull the yarn out of the jars, and yeah, I'll see you later. Hello yarn gang, this is just a really quick update on what is happening with our yarn. So I've taken the jars off of the hobs, and I'm just going to pull the purple one out. I'm just going to move this a little bit. So let me put my other glove as well. So I pull the purple one out. You can see even here at the bottom, and this is quite warm, the water, if I was to lift it, is clear. It's absolutely clear, and that's the case for all of them. So they're all clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take them out of the water, and I'm going to reuse the water that we actually warmed up to do a dip dye video where I break a colour that has recently annoyed me. You may remember sage green annoyed me, so that video will be coming up, and I'm going to leave these to cool on their own. I am recording a voiceover so that I can speed this up, but also explain to you what you're about to see in a very sped up version. So when I spun dried this yarn, which you can see, I've just laid it out so you can see the colours, it got really tangled, and it was my mistake. I basically didn't secure the zip ties correctly and didn't tighten them up. Essentially, I tightened the zip ties up so that the yarn doesn't move around too much, and I didn't also put a zip tie on the other end of the yarn so that it doesn't move around. And so you can see the blue is really tangled, and the idea that I had was to put this on my yarn swift for you and wind it up in the cake so you can see the colours transition from one into the other, and yeah, just see how I turned this skein, which I separated into 4 25-gram mini skeins, into a big 100-gram one again. I had an absolute nightmare to untangling this, as you're probably seeing, and add insult to injury, my cake winder then chewed up the orange and ended up also breaking the orange at the end, which is why this particular yarn is not going to be on my Etsy store, and instead I will knit a project, and you'll be able to see, I have a project in mind, and you'll be able to see what it is on my Instagram, which the link is below in the video description. But yeah, so I think in total it took me about 3 hours to untangle the yarn from itself and then from the cake winder, and turn it into some sort of cake. I'm not going to lie, I was really upset, and because it is a beautiful yarn, and you'll see at the end I have a little video where I'm just literally sat down on the floor completely exhausted from my ordeal, and so I'll leave you to watch that. But this is essentially what you're seeing right now, is me attempting to untangle it in multiple sessions of 45 minutes here and 45 minutes there. Hello, so here I am. Yeah, I've not been showing my face recently on the come down with me videos, and it's because it's just easier not having to come out of the dye covered messy tops that I wear and look presentable. But I don't know if I look presentable. I am wearing my Fortuna sweater by Morgan, or More Thunder, and I will do a video of this about this sweater and my most recent knits soon. As I said, it's a little bit hard to just sort of sit in front of the camera rather than be behind it and do things. Anyway, I've come back on here because you have by now seen the nightmare that was dyeing this. So this is the colour progression yarn that I did, and I had a lot of fun actually dyeing this. I had a lot of fun thinking of the colours. I had a lot of fun just putting it all in jars, and it was a little bit hard to figure out how to separate the skein into 4, and this is what I want to talk about. So I think the issues that I had, that you have seen with the yarn getting tangled and the skeins getting a little bit messed up, the mini skeins getting messed up, has to do with this bad boy. And I'm sat on the floor so you can actually see this bad boy. This is a really cheap Swift from Amazon. It is really rickety, and when I wind skeins it moves this way, and this creates a lot of looseness in the skein, and each loop, each round ends up being slightly different. And there is a dip dyeing video where I talk about how messed up my mini skeins are, where I've wound them up from a big one to minis. One of the reasons I've done that is, at the moment, none of my yarn suppliers have already skeined up 10 and 20 gram minis in the yarn bases that I want them in. I can have them in some really expensive cashmere minis. Why you would want a cashmere mini, I guess, as an accent for a knit that you're doing, but it's not the sort of yarn that I need and the sort of yarn that I would use in my shop. So I'm currently making my own mini skeins for when I want to test things, when I want to dye things for myself or the videos. So anyway, so part of the problem came from the fact that as I was winding this into the 4 separate mini skeins that are linked, I think the sort of the different tension that I get from it with each round had created some issues and created some tangles. The other issue that I had was with the blue, which had literally turned itself inside out. So if you think of the skein as the long loop, I don't have one in hand, but yeah, if you think of the skein as the long loop, it can sort of twist in on itself and twist in on itself this way, but it can also sort of do this weird thing where it can loop through itself. I don't really like, I've seen it happen where it just ends up, what is the center of the loop just comes on the outside, and things just get really wound up around each other. And with a little bit of patience, it, you know, and a little bit of sort of snapping the skein, it comes back together. But this one didn't. I think another thing I could have done better is before I put them in the spin dryer, which I do put them in a bag as well, so that the skeins don't move too much around in the spin dryer. I could have put more zip ties to keep them as they are and keep them in the order as well. Instead, I just had the zip ties on one end and the other ends were all loose, and I have a feeling that may have caused further tangles where the blue skein had gone through the purple one and on the other side, and ended up, when I'd put it back through, I'd done it the wrong way around. So I had done extra loops and extra ties and extra tangles. I tell you, it took me hours to untangle this and turn it into this. As I was winding it up, I then had an issue with this bad boy. And what happened, I'm going to take this off, making faces at you. So, and you can actually see it in the video, you can, because I've watched the video back before I recorded this, and you can see when I start winding the orange up, there is just a little tightness that comes from the Swift. So I stop winding it to make sure that there's no more tangles, and the orange yarn loosens up and goes underneath this rather than staying on the big thing, and it got caught in the gears that you have, and these gears have teeth. And then if I take this off, you also have this smaller, obviously the smaller gear that helps you turn the bigger gear around. It got caught in between the smaller and the bigger one, and the yarn split. So half of the yarn was on one side of this and the other half of the yarn was on the other side of the smaller gear. Getting that off reduced me to tears. I'm not gonna lie, I was so upset. It is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. It is absolutely gorgeous. The stellina in it sparkles and it is just stunning, and I have 20 different projects, it's unraveling already, 20 different projects in mind of what you can do with this, from scarves to hats to mittens to silly socks, anything and everything. You can do this as self-striping as well. So if you did a really, really long skein, you could do it in the 4 sections, and it will self-stripe, or you can do even smaller minis of 5 grams and just, you know, dye each one of them in the 4 colors and just have it repeat. There's so much you can do with dyeing yarn and with you know, color progressions and color changes and self-striping yarn. It is so much work, and this is another thing that I'm not sure everyone quite understands and appreciates. And the number of times I have people message me and complain that my yarn is really expensive. Well, yes, it is expensive. I have spent 3 days dyeing this and then trying to figure out how to unwind it, and that doesn't take into consideration the hour I spent actually separating it into the mini skeins to dye it this way. And yes, it took me an hour because it's the first time I'm doing it, and I could probably, once I figure out how to do it easily and well, I could probably do it quicker. But it is still time, and this time is not free. Yes, I do this predominantly as a hobby and because I absolutely love it, and having the Etsy shop allows me to continue doing this. Having this channel allows me to continue doing it, to share something that I love. But I also want to share that it can be very, very hard. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes resources. These skeins are not cheap to buy on their own. So anyway, now that I've had my little rant, and thank you for letting me rant for 9 minutes. 9 minutes. I'm so sorry. I will wrap this up. What I wanted to say is, so when I was winding it up last night, it ended up in a really tight cake, and the video that you've seen just beforehand, where it's all tangled and stuff, I've sped it up and I've done a quick voiceover for most of it. I've left a couple of funny bits of just me despairing and you know, nearly breaking down because I thought you'd enjoy them. I did watching them back, I found them funny. But yeah, so then it wound up in different tensions. So this morning I wound it up again, so that we have a nice consistent cake. And just where the tangle happened with this, where the yarn was split, it just broke. As I was winding it up, it just snapped. So I don't even know, I don't feel like I can actually put this on the shop. So I think what I'm going to do is I will find a project in which to use this in. I'll probably do a show or something and show you how I guess you can hide those. I mean, you can hide it pretty easily. It's kind of like changing colour, and it is at a spot where the colour does change, or changes in like literally 2 or 3 meters later. So you can just cut it off and just bring the 2 yarns together. You can do all sorts of different knots. I can't think of the names right now. But yeah, so I absolutely love this colourway. This is going to become a colourway in some way, shape or form in the shop. I think I will try and figure out a way of doing it with the silver stellina because it is so beautiful. I love the sparkle, and it might be that rather than a colour progression, it's just a really short repeating, like micro striping or something. We'll figure out, but I am doing that absolutely again. So yeah, this has been the adventure of the colour progression yarn. And if you join me on Instagram at some point in the next couple of months, you will see this being turned into a project, because I really want to knit with this. Because the other thing is, the yarn is so soft. It is squishy and it is absolutely gorgeous, which is another reason why I'm upset that it didn't quite work. But yeah, thank you for joining me for another video. Thank you for bearing with me through what has been a very emotional few days with this yarn. And please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Click the thumbs up, because it really helps with sharing this video out to other people that may not see it otherwise. Don't forget to also click the notification bell so that you don't miss any upcoming videos. And finally, if you really do enjoy the content on this channel and you want to support a little bit more than just subscribing or hitting the thumbs up, then you can go and buy me a coffee. It is in the video description. The link to buy me a coffee is in the video description, and any of the funds that go through buy me a coffee will go in buying more yarn so I can dye it, or buying yarn and equipment from other dyers so that I can share it with you, and I can give you a sort of a review almost of what I think of the colours and the yarn, and just basically big up the rest of the dyeing community, because it is amazing. Everyone that I know that is a yarn dyer is incredibly supportive, and it is very much a community and support and not competition, because there is enough of us to go around, and you can buy a bit of yarn from all of us throughout the community. So thank you all very much for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.